I will be the first to admit that this entire video was inspired by the Real Gems' Who Really Shot Mr. Burns' video series, but applied to Persona 4. Like the series, this is purely a fun thought experiment. Of course, the real culprit is, well, spoilers for Persona 4, but it is obviously Adachi. This is purely a fun video, don't take this one too seriously. Consult your doctor to check if this video is right for you. Without further ado, let's get into our first culprit. Yukiko Amagi. I remember hearing somewhere that originally the culprit was going to be a member of your party, and this is the logical pick for me. Yukiko early on in the game is a very private person, basically having Chie speak for her, and while later on it's explained that's because she sees her as her savior and they love each other and they're gonna marry each other and blah 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 blah. It does get called into question before that. As soon as the first murder happened, she suddenly gets very busy at the Amagi Inn. She barely explains other than the inn is busy right now. However, why would that be in the first case? A high-profile murder in a hotel isn't gonna make people suddenly want to stay there, at least in the first week or so of it happening. Press coverage would not mean more work, at least for Yukiko. So the first murder happens and she suddenly disappears into the crime scene? Could she be able to do this? Maybe. Not really the Yukiko we know, but she does have a sort of sadistic side. And also, what about the second victim? Alright, let me explain what I think might have happened. After years of repression, she sees a commotion going on in the inn. She is told to deal with it and finds Mayumi Yamano. Upon finding her, she lets loose. Her repressed anger leads her to push and shove her, causing all this ruckus at my inn. Just because you're famous, do you think you can do this? After all that shoving, she eventually fell into the Midnight Channel. What Yukiko didn't know is that it wasn't just her and Mayumi in that room. Adachi was there, and as we know from events from the actual game, he was about to do the exact same thing, if not worse. Upon seeing this, he was ready to comfort her, seeing a possible accomplice. He was maybe even awe-inspired, so he let her go. After this, she is full of regret. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I can pin down Mayumi's death to her, but not anything else. I think Yukiko can fly off the handle and do something like this, but to continue it? Absolutely not. And so, Saki was Adachi's kill, being inspired by Yukiko. She regretted her actions and so tried to help stop the real culprit. There are a few points going against this culprit, but I'll try explaining them the best I can. First, if Yukiko always knew who put Saki in the TV, why didn't she say who it was? Well, this one's kind of obvious. Mutually assured destruction. If she ended the chase early by saying who it was, Adachi could easily out her, as he shortened his game. Also, put under any scrutiny, how would she know Adachi killed Mayumi and Saki without being there? And in that case, why didn't she say it before? Second, why did her shadow not say anything about the kill? This one might be a little weird, but we have seen before that not always are shadows representative of the people they are a part of. This could be a similar situation to the Nobutomo case, where people's shared cognition of him being the killer made the TV world reflect that. However, this is unlikely, because this is so early in the Midnight Channel's existence. The better explanation I have is that this isn't a shadow at all, and if it is, it's not Yukiko specifically, at least not in the way that we know shadows at this time. Think back to how Adachi was able to control his shadow, and every shadow in the Midnight Channel in fact. I think the same thing applies to Yukiko. Yet, after realizing the situation that she found herself, she slowly lost control and she felt uncomfortable with what she did, which is why she would be susceptible to other shadows. Lastly, For her to be able to do this, would she need a persona? Yes. This is going to need a degree in mental gymnastics, but I just took an online course. We have seen personas involved. Hell, we've seen shadows turn into the id, which then involved a persona. I'm saying she was in control of the shadows, but didn't have a persona until she accepted who she was, who she really was, i.e. not a killer. But how did she get that shadow in the first place? So she could enter the TV world. I think she got the same type of persona that Adachi did, where you don't accept anything to improve yourself, and also received it in the same way he did too. I don't think it's a stretch for a gas station attendant to have gone somewhere else. Izanami herself states that she found anyone new in Inaba to give a persona to. And where's the place that all the travelers go? The Amagi Inn. That's my 100-word essay. God, this sounds worse when you poke holes into it. So we'll just move on to the next one. Nanako Dojima. Alright, this one's even more of a stretch. Being perfectly honest, outside of the memes of course, I thought the actual in-game explanation for when you select her as a culprit was really fucking weak. I get everyone's gonna pick it as a joke and then just go, oh yeah, she's probably too weak to throw them in, but seriously, they couldn't have said anything about her motivations. This reason is so debunkable. Like, I'm not saying she's swole, but it's not hard to overpower someone if they're not expecting it. And also, she could have just asked someone else to do it, which is what I'm going to stick with, as it's the least questionable option. Now, we need a motive here. I really want to say that she did it because the news coverage took time away from her Junes commercials and her shows.
This is boring.
But we're going to be at least slightly reasonable. Now, I'll admit we are talking about a child throwing adults into a TV and just being okay with it, but stick with me here. I think the more likely explanation is that she was tired of her father being away from home. So to stop that, she went to the source. One night, there was a disturbance, so she wanted to see what her dad was doing at the Amagi Inn. Seeing only Adachi, he was ready to shoo her home. This being Adachi, he didn't try too hard and eventually crumbles from a 6-year-old crying at him. Eventually, she tells him to take all of the bad people away so that dad can come home. Now, Adachi was gonna do it anyway, but this push from a crying child was apparently enough to push him over the edge. And so, he killed Mayumi. Over the coming days, Nanako would complain about these bad people, and he would say he's working on it to continue this little game he was enjoying. That, or she bribed him with like 2 yen, which is hilarious to think of someone bribing a police officer with a pocket money, but here we are. Now, you may be asking, how come Nanako got put into TV? Well, in this order event, she wasn't really sure what was going on. Though I will say the whole thing of a kid not having a persona is weird. Like, kids can be masked off most of the time, but it's still there. As a kid, I treated my classmates differently to my parents, that's for sure. So maybe she's in control of all the shadows and Nomatame is their persona. Why not? Last question would be, why wouldn't Adachi say this? As insane as it would twist the knife into Narukami that his little sister could have started this unknowingly, but Adachi didn't want to come off as insane, no matter what. He wanted people to listen to his points, even if people think the points themselves are insane. In this version of events, Adachi was still gonna do it, so saying why means a lot more than just twisting the knife a bit. But also, coming off as some insane kook, like, let's be realistic here, the biggest issue here is why would she be out past her bedtime? Really, I think that would be it for the actual culprit, so we'll just go on to the conclusion. Honestly, I think the best thing we learned here is how well Adachi's murder mystery is done.
Nice!
You can complain about how Nomatame was a really annoying red herring, that at times feels like a cop-out. Like, it wasn't really his shadow that was acting like a serial killer, it was something else we haven't even heard of yet. Going through these other alternate culprits shows that it couldn't really be anybody else though. For me to omit Adachi from all of these tellings would be altering reality. There are a lot of culprits, sure, but he always has that reason to kill, but comes off as a regular guy, if a bit depressed. Outside of the clues such as his demeanor, his philosophy, marriage is where fun goes to die, and his previous record of getting expelled from his previous police station for something gun related. Well, before he goes mask off about being an incel, kind of, these clues aren't as damning as for some other people. there's sometimes more clues as to Yukiko being the killer, or even Dojima, the Ryotaro variety, that is. Hopefully this might have increased your enjoyment of the game with a newfound appreciation of Adachi's mystery, and of course, keep in mind this was all in good fun. Don't take it too seriously. Oh, actually, thinking about the Ryotaro thing, that actually holds some water. Discuss in the comments, Lamau. Alright, see ya.